every one of those cases and determined that the charges were either unfounded or they were de minimis and should not be filed. With respect to the other discrepancy from or issue raised by Sheriff Rivero, he brought up the fact that there was a previous deputy sheriff that had molested two 14-year-olds, that there was an offer made impliedly by his statement by our office to dispose of those cases. It was rejected by the judge. The fact is that when Mr. Anderson became the DA, that case, we developed a conflict in that case because of some prior relationships by Mr. Anderson. That case went to the AG's office also. Ever since the first couple of weeks that Mr. Anderson was the DA, the AG's office has been handling that case. The AG's office is the agency that made that offer that was rejected by the judge, and it had absolutely nothing to do with the Lake County DA's office. Thank you.
Thank you. And those are the types of things that we hear things about, but we don't know all the facts. And that seems to be the problem, not knowing all the facts, and they're turned around in ways to make people look bad. And, that's uncalled for, it's unprofessional. I don't know. Anyway, with that, we're going to start hearing public input. We're going to put a time limit on it. If we go through things fairly quickly, we'll let you come back up to finish what maybe you started and couldn't. Denise is going to keep the time for me. We're going to do 3 minutes. We've got a lot of people here in the room that would like to speak. And I would ask that maybe when the line gets a little down, or maybe everybody that's just kind of standing over there's not going to speak, could give some room so people can see that they're going to line up on that side of the room and speak. I guess we could take it row by row after the first couple people speak here. Let's go ahead and do that. That way you can stay seated. We'll start with the side of the room over here first, 3 minutes each. We'll work down the side of the room, and anyone wants to speak on that side, then let's start in this row this time and go back this way. We always start over here. So, come on up. And always state your name for the record. And
Loretta McCarthy. I had to go first because I don't want to not say what I want to say, and I won't come back because this isn't very comfortable for me. I need to say that the Frank Rivero that I know, I like. The man that I knew before he was elected, I really like Frank. I saw him at the party you were talking about. It was for his 10-year-old son as well. I saw him with children. I saw him getting the horses ready and the kids. Delightful, absolutely delightful. I do have a concern. Though I voted for Frank Rivero for sheriff based on what I heard him say he would do, I now have a concern. And it was even deepened by listening today. What I hear and what I don't want in any sheriff that serves me as a member of a citizen in Lake County, I do not want any sheriff or anybody that is in that law enforcement becoming the judge and jury of the Board of Supervisors, of the DA's office, of the Rick Coel's. I do not want that, and that's what I was hearing in my own self. I was hearing that today. I think that the sheriff's job is to prosecute criminals, and we all know that people are innocent until they're proven guilty. I just almost served on jury duty, and that was over and over and over again. There is, I'm sure, any number of cases that involve officials, elected officials, that may or could come before a judge. But it is not, in my opinion, the sheriff's job to become that judge and jury. So when it is a grading thing, whether it be a supervisor or anybody, that goes through Rick Coel. That gets processed that way. If somebody is accused of a crime and they're brought to judgment, or they send something to out of county and it said nothing was done wrong here, then I think we abide by what the law says. I'm not naive. I'm not thinking nothing ever gets done behind closed doors, but I don't think we can live that way. And I want a sheriff that does what happened with the bank robber, and what's going to happen if murder or other kinds of mayhem happen, as we see almost every day here in Lake County. I want a sheriff that is pursuing and having his staff under him pursuing justice in those cases, bringing them to the judge, bringing them to the jury, no matter who they are, no matter what the level is. But that's what I want from the sheriff. And I'm sorry to say, from what I heard today, I didn't hear that, and that disappoints me.
Next.
Jim Steele, Clear Lake Oaks. My wife, Olga Martin Steele, couldn't be here. I'd like to hand you her written comments if you wish.
Okay. Pass them down. One for one.
And you can't get away without hearing something from me. So I just want to tell you that I've listened to all of the substance of what's been said, and a lot of it is fluff and flack on both sides. I'd like to see us all as government officials, every one of you that's been elected, to rise up above on a higher plane and deal with this without all of the comments at a lower level. It goes for Sheriff Rivero, it goes for you as well. This really ought to be on high ground. I don't see it on high ground. I'm disappointed in every one of you, all of you. I'd like to see something different out of the elected officials. Someone to step up, take some leadership, and actually make this go forward and solve some problems. I know there's been some attempts. Maybe it wasn't the right way, but let's not give up on the attempts. What you're going to do today on this vote is improper for this board. Just my view as one of the electorate out there, one of their constituents. I don't think this is where your place should be. This is nothing going to amount to than a grandstand, and it's going to get some press. That's not good. You shouldn't be there. You should be at a higher level. I would like to tell you where that level should be, but that would take too long, and so I just hope you appreciate those comments. Thank you.
Marcy Long, Kelseyville. Rob is my supervisor. He has never represented me. He still doesn't. He proves to be very rude. The quote in the paper offended me. Francisco Rivera has my full regard. We voted to have a change in Lake County, and that has not happened, and I feel the main reason is Don Anderson has let us down. He and Rob Brown are trying to maintain the system of power that we voted out. And I'm very disappointed, especially with Farrington. We thought we had somebody that had an independent streak. And I just want Don Anderson to know that I have very many friends that voted for him, and not one is going to vote for him again, because we voted for change. We voted for Rivero, and that's what I have to say.
My board of supervisors, I haven't talked to you in a long time.
Your name for the
And
record,
not a
sir?
whole lot, but Bruce Forsythe, I thought everybody knew me, maybe not. I don't like elephants in the room. And what, I thought you were gonna let that thing go. What we have is elephants in the room. We have some things that aren't being said. So maybe, I've got some notes here, we'll say a few things. Maybe ask a couple of questions. When Mitchell had 14 federal lawsuits pending, when Garzoli Gate was going on, when Dinius was going on in the cover-up, when all of these things were happening with your hero, Rob, Mr. Mitchell, you guys sat like stone statues on your plinth of deception. Not a finger was raised of no confidence. Was it, Rob? Not a finger against Mitchell. And his record, compared to what you're doing on a 5-year-old Brady, Mitchell's record, Anthony, Denise, Jeff, not a finger raised. None of you said a word about no confidence. Hypocrites. Pure and simple. Donnie, it's a vendetta. Let's get that elephant out of the room right now. It's a vendetta. You know it. You know it, you know it, you know it, you know it, and you know it. It's pure and simple. And yet you continue to push this issue. Let's talk for a minute about why. Why is because you were told it was going to cost you if you let Donnie go after the sheriff. You were told it was a vendetta.
Sir, you're not speaking in the mic.
That's all right, didn't hear me fine, I haven't heard anybody
No,
complain,
you're speaking
okay?
in the mic.
You were told it was a vendetta. You guys were to counsel Donnie. Anita was to counsel Donnie. Pull him back. Use your heads. You knew where it was going. The sheriff told you were gonna pay. You were dealing with our taxpayer dollars and you were told you were gonna pay. The sheriff told you. And you pushed it forward. And you pushed Donnie, didn't you, Rob? Donnie, I have a quote from somebody that says you made a statement several months ago. I'm going to get him. You're not getting his name. He's too close to you. But did you make the statement, Donnie? You did, because you're going to get the sheriff. And that's what all this is about. Shame on
15
you.
seconds.
It's hypocrisy. It's disgusting. And I'll give you one last sentence, it may go 20 seconds. I was standing in Kelseyville Lumber, Rob, ordering some goods, middle of the day on a
Time's
Wednesday,
up.
by the way. You walked up behind me, I didn't know it was you. You know what you said, Rob? You said, "Hey, foreskin, how are you, asshole?" And you know what was amazing? I didn't even turn around. I just stood at Kelseyville Lumber and I said, "That's got to be Rob Brown." And it was. You have no credibility, Rob. Anthony, I talked to
Time's
you
up.
I yield my
at
time.
Studebaker's with Tom Carter, and we talked to you about a potential major gun
Sit down and
issue,
respect
and
the rest
you
of
know
the
what that
council.
was, and you
Time is
denied it. Hypocrisy. And you can't deny any of it. Thanks, gentlemen, Anthony. Make your vote, make your proclamation. It's meaningless.
What Rob Brown hit the
I would
nail
like
on
to
the
respond.
head.
Thank you.
The inaccuracy in that, Bruce, was that you weren't inside because they don't let you in the store, and I said that to your face out in the parking lot.
I didn't even hear what you said.
Go ahead.
My name's Tom Carter, and I'm a general contractor, among other things. And there's a lot I'd like to say, a lot about the retaliation I've had from the building department lately. And I'll talk to anybody about it privately and some other things going on.
Can you talk louder?
But there's one thing I want to say. Rob, when you said you only showed that picture in Studebaker, that's not true. You showed it at my wife's beauty salon.
He's a liar. Yeah.
See the job they did?
My name is Ted Duncan from Middletown. Just want you people to know, I have a valid pending criminal complaint against Sheriff Ribeiro. I originally filed it through his professional, through the Sheriff's Department, Professional Standards Department. Unfortunately, it seems to have been dissolved since Frank took over. So now I'm going to pursue it through higher, and am pursuing it through higher authorities. If they find it valid, there won't even be a need for a vote, because the penalty of his loss of status as a peace officer. And I'm going to follow it up. And it's a criminal complaint, not an administrative complaint. Thank you.
I do want to follow up because I want to admit to Tom, I had forgotten about that. I did show that in there. I'm going to tell you something. There are people, women, who are scared to death in our community. And when somebody's coming to work at 5 o'clock in the morning, they think that there's a murderer still out there. And I, in an attempt, and I admitted to Brian Kenner and to Detective Corey Polish that that I had done that at Studebaker's. I had forgotten about the incident at the salon. In an attempt to alleviate their fears that there's somebody out there running around, I mentioned that there's a good chance that this person may already be in custody, but has not been charged with it yet. And that was the extent of the conversation, and I will not lie about it.
Bill?
Shield, City of Clear Lake. It seems like ever since Frank got elected as sheriff, a lot of people have tried everything in the world to get rid of him. In fact, you people will not even let him join your club. And I think it's about time you let him join your club and put an end to this.
What's the club, Bill?
I haven't said a word.
Okay. Tom, you already spoke.
You rebutted me, can I say something?
I agree with you.
There's something else I want to talk about. You want me to wait till everybody else has spoken? So I can speak again, I will.
Yeah, wait till the end. Let's start right here in this row. And in the front row.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Rob Howe. I'm the Chief Probation Officer for Lake County. I wasn't planning on speaking today, so to get this out of the way first, I'll gladly take this morning off on my own time because I am going to speak personally. When Frank took office, I was a captain with the Sheriff's Department. I was there for the county for 20 years. I gave him every opportunity to succeed, to hope he would succeed. It became evident to me very quickly that in order to work for Frank, I would have to basically forget everything that I'd ever come to believe about leadership, management, and integrity, and I wasn't willing to do that. I resigned. 5 of the 6 command-level officers in enforcement at that time when he took office either resigned or retired. They can state their own reasons, but mine are simple. The price to stay there was too high. I love the county. That's why I'm still here. I love the Sheriff's Department. There are a lot of men and women that do a great job in there. I've also been a citizen of Lake County for 44 years, lifelong. Eva Munoz, I even have you beat. But, as a citizen, I know this is a difficult and controversial issue. And I want to give my support and thank the board and the district attorney for having the courage to come forward with it.
Anybody else in that row? As the person sits down, whoever is next in the next row, please just get up and head up so we can move on. Thanks.
Brian Martin. I also used to work at the Sheriff's Department under Frank Rivero, and I was a member of his command staff, and I left for many of the same reasons that Rob Howe did. There's a lot of things that need to be addressed here and can't be addressed in 3 minutes, but one of the main issues that I think the public needs to be aware of, that those in law enforcement are already aware of, is that this issue of a Brady issue is extremely important. As peace officers, we're trusted with the ability to take people's liberty, to take them to jail, and sometimes, when necessary, even take their lives. If you have a person in there that you can't trust and believe 100% of the time, you have a big problem.
That row, the next row up.
We didn't know if you were going this way or this way.
It doesn't matter. Anybody in that row.
Hi, my name is Kathy Maynard. I'm a resident of Middletown. And in November of 2010, Frank Rivero was elected sheriff, overwhelmingly. The people have a special trust between the sheriff and the community. And after he was elected, almost immediately, Rob Brown, Don Anderson, public conflict after public conflict. And it was just, it looks bad. I don't think there's a basis to like most of them, but let me go beyond that. It's such a contrast between when Rod Mitchell was the sheriff of this county. There's just dozens of lawsuits. There was hundreds of thousands of dollars that were paid out. One of them was on a rape case. I have an open letter for all of you. I'm going to leave because it's too lengthy to go into. But I never heard any of you. And Rob Brown and Anthony, you were both on the board at the time. And you never, at the time, you never called for a vote of no confidence. You had no conflicts with anything that Rod Mitchell did. We voted to bring Frank Rivero in as sheriff. I still have a lot of confidence in the man, and I'm going to work hard to get him reelected. For you to have a vote of no confidence in him today, that's for the people to decide. The people will decide who we want for sheriff in this county. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna leave you my open letter.
Thank you.
Well, look at him, lady. And don't get yourself in that. Oh, I know.
Sandy BOS. I live in Hidden Valley Lake and I've only been here about 12 years. And I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I wrote it up because it's real important to me, so I'm going to read part of it and then I'm going to leave what copies I have. The thing that isn't in here though is that until we reach several $1 million in lawsuits, such as we've had from the Genius case and that other sort of stuff, I'm for letting Frank decide where he wants the substation and what it's going to cost, and we pay for it. And then when we're up to millions of dollars, then start worrying about the finances again. That's not in here, so I'm just saying that. I supported him in his election campaign because I believed the county needed a fresh start with more boating and more tourists, and a new sheriff and DA following the Genius trial on which I served as a juror. I heard all the trial evidence and decided that while all of the evidence wasn't protected, including the boats not being set aside the night of the event to protect the evidence, the guilty party was protected, in my opinion. When the innocent person who was wrongly charged and tried was acquitted, things were a real mess here. I was hoping there would be less effort and money wasted in the future by this county going after the wrong people, and I was hoping that people would quit suing us. Instead, the new DA, whom I also supported, feels the need to take on the new sheriff about a matter that was investigated and settled. And I understand what the police officers are saying, but I think we need to get with the future, and we're not trying to do that. And you guys were all elected, and the DA was elected, and the sheriff was elected, and I'm counting on you to stop all this stuff and work it out. And I know that's difficult, bringing a consultant if you have to, but I'm going to tell you that he's made substantial progress, in my opinion. I trust him, and I believe that it's inappropriate for you to sanction him and request that he resign because we chose him. And if we don't want him anymore, we will recall him, and I will work to make that happen when I think he's bad enough, but I'd still rather have him than Mitchell any day. He answers to the voters who elected him, and I think that the people who worked for or with him should help him or resign as they did and get out of the way. If he runs again, I'll vote for him, but I'm looking forward and looking around to see who'd make a better candidate for DA and for Board of Supervisors.
Everybody.
Anybody else in that row or working their way back? Anybody on that side of the room?
Linda Peralta Conway, Clear Lake. I am embarrassed by what's going on here. I am embarrassed that we're getting such negative press. I think it's inappropriate what you're doing. That's all I have to say.
Anybody else? Okay. The next person that's going to speak, you can make your way over to that side of the room if you like, and
Joey Lewis, Clear Lake. You know, it's no secret that I was a supporter like Anthony is of Frank. And, you know, Loretta said it well. I still want to like Frank, but I don't like the person that he's become now that he's in office. You know, we attended meetings together, we walked the streets together, we broke bread at my own house. I supported Frank and had rallies at my house for him. Because we both had a common passion that something was wrong and we could do better. We could get in and make it better. And I won an office the same night Frank did. And I went in with that passion and with a surgical knife, and we cut through what was wrong, and we're doing better with our city now. Frank came in with a machete and just absolutely alienated himself and everybody. And I just don't understand that. And the irony in all this is I wasn't a Don Anderson supporter, and now I'd support Don again, and I wouldn't support Frank. So something's wrong here. Something doesn't add up. I've spent a lot of time with our law enforcement people since I've been in office, seeing what they deal with every day. And they were, Frank talked like them, he actually called them to me the Brady Bunch, ironically. And those guys are good, a lot of them young, hardworking guys trying to make our community safer. And they don't need the person from the agency that oversees the whole county criticizing and bashing them. It doesn't make any of us safer. But that's just one in a long list of things. I mean, if the man I've seen him become in this office is definitely not the man I supported during the campaign. I mean, if Howard Pyle had this example when he wrote the Sheriff of Nottingham into his Robin Hood book, he would have been more diabolical. And that's not the man I supported. And it's unfortunate we have to do this, but I think you as the leaders need to make a statement, and it is a statement, and Frank says he's not going to resign, and that is what it is. But this has gone too far, and the lies, I mean, just,
15 seconds.
anyways, I support you in your vote. I'm sorry, Frank, but you've disappointed a lot of us that put you where you are, and I hope you would do the right thing and step down. Thank you.
Good morning, Don Anderson. Originally, I wasn't going to be here today. I wasn't going to speak, and I was not going to speak about Brady issues. But I just heard my family attacked. I've heard my employees attacked, as well as some of my friends. Let's be no mistake. Farrington's my friend, Rob Brown's my friend, Jeff, Denise, Jim, as well as you, Frank, were my friends. But I don't care whether they're friends or not friends. If a crime comes to me, or some problem comes to me that I have to address in my official capacity, I will do so. I will do so in a fair and efficient manner. And that's what I've done with this Brady issue. Getting to my friend, Sean Navarro, his brother, as you said, is being charged with sex crimes. As Rich Hinchcliffe says, as soon as I got in office, not only because they were friends, but I represented him administratively, that I turned the case over to the Attorney General's office and have nothing to do with it. I've had 3 daughters, 3 wonderful, beautiful daughters. 2 of them got in trouble. One a traffic ticket. The other one a squabble with her husband. Those cases came to my office. Again, they were turned over to the Attorney General. I had nothing to do with it. Have not even read the reports. The instance about Rob Brown came to my office. I reviewed the report. I thought it was self-defense. I took it to another agency, had that district attorney office review it. They agreed it was self-defense. Mr. Farrington and I talked about his stepfather. Yes, we did. I felt there was prosecution, there was a crime there, and I was right. The guy pled guilty to it. But I talked to Mr. Farrington like I talk to other victims on a daily basis. No favors, he didn't ask any favors, and I would not have granted him any favors. You attack my employees because the Danny Lloyd case has gone 2 years without going to prelim. This is a murder case. This happens on almost every murder case. They do not get handled like you see on Law and Order within a couple of months. The deputy is handling that, is doing a spectacular job. It's gone on 2 years because defense motions have requested continuance after continuance. We are ready to go. We're ready on the case. We have been for 2 years. And lastly, on the Brady issue. This is the last thing I ever wanted to do. I have done extensive investigation of Brady on yourself as well as other officers. I have cleared every single officer that I've come across because there was not substantial evidence that they had lied. Now, back in 2008, there was an investigation going on, and you blame my investigators because they said they didn't do their job first, and then they did do their job, whatever it was. This matter was investigated by my chief investigator, Craig Woodward. He's standing right here, and I'll swear he is the best investigator in this county, bar none. They did a complete investigation. If you want to read that report again from Craig Woodward and John Hopkins, they reported back in 2008 that there was discrepancies in your testimony. This is not a new thing. When it was brought to my attention in 2011 that from another deputy that you had lied, what am I to do? Am I to hide my head and say, oh, because it's the sheriff, I will not investigate it? And do exactly what you say and everybody else has done in county government? No, I take my job serious. When that came to me, I launched another investigation to find out what actually occurred. Whether the 2008 report was genuine or was not. We had our meeting. You showed me some new evidence. Reopened the investigation. Craig Woodward handled it personally. And everything was as I suspected it was. This took over a year. And believe me, on a personal note, I did not want to do this. This caused me nothing but heartache. It's caused me nothing but political embarrassment. The whole county has been embarrassed. But I take my obligation serious. I was voted in his office to do a job. By God, I will do that job the fairest, best way I can. Thank you.
Anybody else over on this side of the room? Come on up. And whoever wants to be next, get over here next to the wall. Now, you want to get up here next?
Yes.
Okay. As soon as Ms. Moss is done, you can.
John has offered to let me go first, Phil Murphy. The county needs a new prison built, and it needs to give a raise to the deputies. I wish the board would focus on those important goals and get to work on them.
John Moss, I want to say that I have lost confidence in the Board of Supervisors for not following the law. Anita Grant wrote the law, presented it to you, gave her recommendation, and I heard Rob Brown say, I don't care what the law says. And Frank Rivera went ahead because he has the legal right to defend himself. He is a citizen, and he did. And he brought suit against Lake County, and even though he had to get a visiting judge, he won. Lake County had to pay the expenses. And I believe it was close to $40,000. That's what Mr. Farrington said at the time. The legal expenses that Frank incurred defending himself, which he has a right to do. And I was up on the fourth floor of the courthouse, and to me this proves that Brown, Mr. Brown, is not separating his duties as a supervisor from his personal likes and dislikes. After the hearing in the court, I couldn't attend it because I was working on the fourth floor, sitting with some children. He said, good, maybe now we'll finally get rid of him. That's what Mr. Brown said. So I believe there is a personal vendetta because Mr. Rivera won the election over his friend and associate, Rob Mitchell. Thank you.
name's Kathy Miller from Hidden Valley Lake. Jim Comstock is a representative. First, I'd like to say that I was also on the campaign to help Frank get elected, and I have not lost confidence in him. The last 2 days, I've seen Lake County on the Channel 2 ticker. Part of my concern since I've moved here, this county is an embarrassment. We're constantly on the news for Sheriff Mitchell. The county wanted some change, and we got change. You guys are sitting up there, the same people that were with Mitchell, and you don't like it because he's doing something different. Let the man do his job. That's what the people elected. You don't have a right to take that away, the no confidence law. And I actually voted for Don Anderson as well. Will you get my vote again? No. I've called him several times about corruption in the child support office, and not one phone call back, wondering why $40,000 in the rears when the child support agency is not pursuing my complaint. Not one call back after I called him. Is it because perhaps the manager works with the district attorney's office? I have no idea. I took my things to Jim Comstock, nothing's happened. So my confidence in Frank, yes. Leave him alone, let him do his job. And Mr. Brown, your conflict of interest with your job has nothing. You should not even be running. You should not be sitting where you're sitting. Thank you.
Anybody else on that side of the room at all? Okay, then let's start right up front here, and we'll work our way back.
My name is Debbie Blake. I live in North Lakeport. I swore I wasn't going to get up and say anything, but I talked to the sheriff out in the hallway. And the only thing I have to say is I believe out of Rob Brown's pocket and the sheriff's pocket, they need to hire outside county mediation and get over this combative attitude they have towards each other, which is hurting not only the sheriff's department, it is hurting the county. Please, guys, settle your issues and get on with business.
Bob?
I'm Bob Talk from Kelseyville. First, I want to take a moment to thank the board for their appreciation of the importance of a matter such as this. I know that each of you probably spent some nights without too much sleep, and I know this has not been an easy decision for you to bring forward. With that in mind, I want to tell you, I listened to Mr. Rivero, and I intentionally have left out the word sheriff because he is not my sheriff in the manner in which he is today. I heard what he said today, and I've heard the same type of thing many a time in the past, and I know that it is just smoke and mirror. You've heard most of what he said been rebutted by other folks of the accusations that he's made. Does he feel that he can continue to be untruthful and deceive the public? This is certainly his pattern. He seems to say what fits him best without regard for the truth. Today is a sad day for Lake County law enforcement and Lake County. Not only has the determination been made that the sheriff is on the Brady list and he's been branded a liar in doing that, but his ability to testify as a witness will be jeopardized during the prosecution of any criminal case that he is involved with. He is an embarrassment to law enforcement. It would be in the best interest of Lake County if he were to step down from the position of sheriff. This goes far beyond the Brady issue. During the past 2 years, Sheriff Rivero has ruined the relationships with other law enforcement agencies in Lake County and beyond. Of utmost importance, Sheriff Rivero has endangered law enforcement officers' lives by the callousness and ego-driven decisions that he has made. And I do not speak without some experience. I've spent 32 years working as a law enforcement officer in Lake County. I have a lot of knowledge in the workings of law enforcement agencies, and I base my opinions upon past practice of contemporary law enforcement practices and training throughout the many years that I've had.
30 seconds.
As a chief, I know that change is needed for all of us in Lake County.
My name is Barbara Galvin, I live in Cobb, and I came here mainly today because I wanted an update on the substation in Middletown, which I did get clearance on that. But as a woman sitting here in the chair today, I have to tell you that I believe it's fine to be passionate about something, as the woman here talking about childcare. She didn't make me nervous, she didn't upset me, I didn't feel the need like I wanted to get up and run out of the room. My issue with Frank Rivero is and always has been his personality, his aggressiveness. I want someone to be professional that's going to represent me. Each and every one of you are passionate about what you're doing. You all have your own feelings. You're going to take a very serious issue before yourselves in a very short amount of time. Yet I haven't seen any of you be disrespectful or aggressive or assertive. But yet we have a sheriff. That's what he does every single time I ever even come close to him. And I have a unique situation within my family because my own cousin, Olga Steele, was his campaign manager. I didn't vote for him. I've never supported him. I did vote for Don Anderson, and I still support him. And I ask that when you make your decisions, you make your decision on how it affects all of us. Because I hope to not break the law and get in trouble and have to go to jail or anything like that. But I do know as a woman, when I walk down the street, I won't want to be afraid. And if I came upon any of you, and I looked at you and I passed you and it was dark, I wouldn't be nervous or upset. And I don't mean this to be judgmental, I mean it because it's true. When I look at what the sheriff looks like today, he's scary. He scares me, and I wouldn't walk past him on the street, and I just need to say that. Thank you.
My name is Greg Scott, and I'm very passionate on certain areas here. In my career of 35 years, and 18 of that was a peace officer, I've had a lot of major disasters, major fires, and things that really are very involved. Most of these people in the incident base here, CDF, they were on the engines when I was running those same fires out there and worked with a number of different various situations that went on. I bring to a passion that disaster management is a key issue here in this county because we're going the right steps of upgrading it and getting back an emergency service coordinator. When the campaign was going on, I asked Jack Baxter and Sheriff Rivero, standing out in back of the spaghetti feed, the Thompson spaghetti feed, tell me about your experience of disaster management. One said I didn't know we had a plan, and it was part of my job. The other one said I had a mortuary in San Francisco and make it available. And that was the answer, and that's all I'll continue in disaster management. Thank you, Chris Macedo, for keeping the program alive and making it work, and your hard work. Your efforts and what's been there have been what's helped this county continue in those areas. And we salute you for that. Great job for keeping the book. But now it's going to the county administrative office, and we had a fellow named Jerry Wilson who worked there, know how to write plans, was educated in it. Since that time, he's gone. Nobody's gone to CSTI to be trained in disaster management, how to handle a major thing. You know, I've had situations where I had over 180 communities that were isolated, where I sent paramedics and sheriff officers and people in there to take care of them so we get the roads built and get them back in there. But I don't see any ICS training or SIMS training or even people that even know what that is. And before we have that major root canal where we have a disaster, we need to build this up. And it hasn't happened. I don't see it. It was never mentioned during the campaign. Nobody even cares about it because it doesn't happen. But when it does hit you, you're going to have to survive it yourself because we won't, as responders, will be injured, we'll have our families affected, we'll have our equipment affected. And it's really not a plan. So I congratulate the Board of Supervisors for taking that position from the Sheriff's Office to give back the workload to Chris, who was overworked, and share it with the rest of the folks. I think it's a great move. I respect you for that decision. I've been there, I've experienced it, and in my own heart, you're doing the right thing. in shaking disaster management. Thank you for considering the needs of our citizens. That is very near and dear to me.
Anybody in the next row, work your way back. Come on up.
Good afternoon. I'm wondering if Mr. Anderson.
Can't hear you.
I'm wondering if Mr. Anderson, who was a deputy for 26 years, is that right? If he wants to run for sheriff. He's using a disgruntled ex-employee to try to smear our sheriff. And if you're not providing legal assistance even right today to our sheriff, it would appear that it's one-sided and unjust like a kangaroo court. I value my vote. When I lived in San Francisco years ago, my vote was taken away from me by the assassination of Mayor Moscone. My district supervisor and ally of Harvey Milk lost some of her influence because he was assassinated. Now it appears my vote for Sheriff Rivera also faces nullification by character assassination. I think this is a waste of time. It should be handled in the courtroom where everyone is responsible and has legal representation. If anything, there would be a no confidence vote against some of the board or perhaps the DA as well. That's the way things are flying. I think we have a right to a ballot. There'll be elections coming up soon. And since we mentioned the Shady Lane substation option in Clear Lake Oaks, I prefer that one. I think it'd be a good investment. It's not a $500,000 building. It's never been a successful business there. It might be worth $250,000. We could put an antenna up the hill perhaps. It would be better traffic-wise, closer to my neighborhood where we need a sheriff, where it takes hours and not days to get response. And I think that should be considered very seriously. Thank you.
Thank you. Someone else? At this point, anybody else would like to speak? Please come over here to the wall and we'll take one at a time.
Cheryl Hutchinson, City of Clear Lake. I came here to listen to a vote of no confidence from the Board of Supervisors. And so far I've heard about Farrington's family and Brown's family and all kinds of other stuff that has nothing to do with, and I know I'm going to pronounce the guy's name wrong, Michael Soborija, that originally brought the charges against, however you say his last name. But I haven't heard anything about that. Who is this guy and what kind of credibility does he have? You know, that's what I came for. I mean, it's like I've heard all kinds of stuff that he did and you guys did, but it's Anderson did his job based on charges that were brought forward by a guy that was actually there to witness what Rivera had done. So I'm a little bit lost for this vote of confidence, but, you know, thank you.
Jerry Spittler, the City of Clear Lake. I'm not here officially. The political ring pretty much freaks me out and scares me, even though I find myself right in the middle of it. I personally watched Mr. Brown lie right before us today. He said he only showed the picture once and then retracted when the evidence was brought forward. I too agree this should be in a courtroom and not a free-for-all in the Board of Supervisors chambers. The whole thing just doesn't seem right to me. People are throwing facts back and forth. Are they facts? Are they truth? Who's telling the truth? This is a very uncomfortable situation, I think, for a lot of people, myself personally, extremely uncomfortable. I think it's out of bounds. The people voted for Rivera. I think it's democracy, and if the people don't like the job he's doing, they'll do a recall. Just as far as myself, if the job I'm doing, my community doesn't like, they'll recall me. And that's the way the game is supposed to be played. So I'm confused by what's going on here. It's intimidating, and just a lot is being said that there's no facts to base it. just because somebody's been elected in or seems to be powerful doesn't mean they're always telling the truth on either side. So I think this should be done in a courtroom and not in the Board of Supervisors chambers.
Anyone else over on that side? Ma'am, come on up, you can just go right up to the wall and. Next person would like to speak, please come over the wall so we can get moving along here.
Please, what are you saying?
No, ma'am, I was just talking to anybody else that wanted to come up.
You're confusing
You're up.
me. You're confusing me.
Just state your
All
name
right,
for the
I
record.
would, my name is Alvina Petrolio, and I would like to say all this rigmarole is going, I don't think the board has a right to what they were trying to do today. Like this lady said, it should be in the court of law where there's a vote. This is unconstitutional, really.
Anyone else? Anybody else would like to come back up to,
My name is Hiram Dukes. I live in the Cobb area, and I do agree with what's been said. There is a means in the electoral process of recalling a person, and that's what should be done if we decide. And to have a vote of non-confidence expresses your opinion. And I understand that you need to express your opinion. But it's getting to the point where it's a waste of money. This started with Mitchell's defeat. Most of what is being said now and in the papers is just a reiteration of what Mitchell said during the campaign. And I did cover it. I was on Rivero's side. I know there are a lot of hard feelings and hurt feelings, and they have to be resolved. And I wish that we could get on with the business of government, because we are in deep trouble here in the county with gangs, drugs, and we have homes are being burned down, burned out, people are being burned out. And there are more pressing things for us to do.
My name is Susie Cashmore, and my family has been very involved with Frank Rivero, unfortunately. My daughter actually currently lives under his roof, and our family has been through nothing but hell with Frank Rivero. Every time he opens his mouth, he lies. He's very unethical. I think he's totally incompetent. I can't believe that he is a sheriff from our own personal experiences. I'm grateful that the Board of Supervisors is at this point where they want to get rid of this man. I think he's an embarrassment. I think he actually needs serious psychological evaluations. I think that he is barbaric. I think he looks like a thug. I think he's probably one of the most unintelligent people that you could have as a sheriff. There's so much that I could say, but basically I can't stand him. I hate him in my family. I wish that he would get out of this county. And I'm very, very grateful that we're at this point where we can actually do something about him. Because he's an embarrassment, and he's totally incompetent. Get out of my family, Frank Rivero. My granddaughter will be under this idiot's roof tonight. You're a freaking embarrassment.
You had your say, lady. Shut up.
And you had yours too, honey.
Yeah, but
Ma'am,
I quit.
ladies, that's enough. That's enough. Anyone else? Come on up.
Tom Carter again. And believe me, I don't want this
Could you
to be
speak into the
personal.
microphone, please?
Damn tall. There you go. This is not personal with anybody here. I've talked to several of you guys before and told you things about ways that didn't turn out the way they should have turned out. because so many things go on behind this wall and closed doors. We don't hear how you vote on a lot of circumstances. And I know a lot of people in this county. A lot of people talk to me and tell me things. Things, for example, and I'm connected to a lot of people. Everybody remembers the $3 bust in Middletown, right? Well, one of those kids was my daughter's boyfriend's. And I'm gonna tell you right here, right now, those kids were selling pot to everybody in that high school. And I'm glad that it got stopped. And hopefully those kids will straighten their lives up and do something different. Some of you may think that I have some conflict with marijuana, but I don't. I see it very clearly. I was also talking to the building department the other day, talking to them about how the EPA is trying to get a hold of me because I did some work at Hoberg's and they want to know about this asbestos. And I said, I don't want to talk to those guys because I'm retaliated by the building department every day by Rick Coel. I go up there, my plans seem to be delayed. I get more trouble and more hassle than anybody up in that department. I spend hours in that department trying to get things settled out. The building inspector told me, he says, Tom, you do what's right for the community. So I'm going to do that. And I always knew that, but once in a while it's good to hear it, to be reminded of it. He told me about Rob Brown's grading permit. He told me he called Rob Brown a liar for recently grading his grading permit. I don't care what you do, Rob, whether you grade or not, that's your business. Personally, I think it's your land, you can do what you want to. But you gotta sit at the same standard that all of us do. If I get red tagged and I gotta deal with cleaning it up, you get red tagged, you need to deal with cleaning it up too. This whole business of everybody taking care of everybody's buddy in this county, it's time to stop. We're in the 21st century here. We're all in this community together. We all need to get along. We all need to make an example to the rest of the state. We're the laughing stock of this state. I was at Casper this week and I go, oh, you're from the dirty lake over there. It's like everywhere if I go to Tahoe, anywhere I go, oh, clearly is what they say. We need to stop this right here in this room right now. You guys do your job. Let the sheriff do his job. This is not your job to give him a vote of no confidence. You're wasting everybody's time. You're wasting everybody's money.
It's part of the process.
Excuse me, you had your turn and I didn't interrupt you. I didn't interrupt you. Don't interrupt me. It needs to stop. This good old boy cronyism is over. It won't take place anymore.
15 seconds.
We're in the technological age. You ain't getting away with nothing anymore. Everybody knows what's going on. There's so many stories that I know about, facts, people that don't want to come forward because they're afraid of retaliation. It's got to stop.
And just for the record, any vote that this board takes in open session, if we go into closed session to discuss a topic, no matter what it is, and there is an actual vote, the vote happens in open session after that closed session. So there's never a vote behind closed doors or anything else. It's always done in open session. Just to clear up the facts.
Well, I know for a fact, sometimes there's facts presented behind that door that aren't taken into consideration when the vote is taking place.
Hey, do you know that for a fact?
Yes, I know that for a fact, Rob. And if you want me to bring some out?
Yep.
I don't really, all right. Excuse me, Brian. Brian Martin was sent to investigate me for something I told the sheriff. And I corrected Brian and said, no, it wasn't me who told the sheriff about Tommy Andrews. I believe you're Tommy Andrews. I really don't even know what you look like, but I'm guessing it's you. And I told him it wasn't me who said it. It was someone else, and gave him the names of both the people that heard Tommy say it. Nobody ever went and talked to those two people. They came back to the board and they said to you, and I told this to Denise Rushing personally on the telephone. Tommy got his job back. None of my business, Tommy. I got nothing.
You know,
I'm not looking at you, Rob. Sorry.
When you get
Tommy's
in,
right behind you, I believe, right?
Tom, when you get into personal matters, it's something that.
I understand that, but when you have the information, when the information is given to you, and you choose to ignore it or not follow up on it, that's just one example. I didn't come here to be personal.
The vote was taken on any of those matters, the vote's taken out in open session.
Rob, we can talk semantics all you like about how the government works and
Get into the
stuff.
facts.
What I like to see is the truth to come out and the truth be dealt with, and not all this he said, she said business, behind the door business, and stuff dealt with. This county has got to make some changes, and it's time. You guys all got elected by your people. It was strong.
You rebutted what I had to say to you. Your time was up from that, so.
Any more questions you'd like to ask me?
Not right this second. Thank you. Anyone else like to make any comments? If not, I'm going to close this public portion down, and we'll bring it back to the board for deliberation or questions or whatever. Supervisor Rushing, Comstock, any comments?
I've been listening intently to this. I think most people here know that I don't have any political aspirations beyond this particular job, that I won't be running for office again. And so I hope you take this as just coming from my heart and my view of this situation. I think this county is in deep need of healing. I don't see the path to get there with the kinds of attacks that happen back and forth, and I think a lot of us feel that way. I had calls from so many citizens that used to support the sheriff that want the board to do something about the sheriff. I've had calls from citizens that want the board to do something about the DA. I've had citizens come and talk with me about the former sheriff, when he was in office, and wanted us to, quote, do something. And the truth is, the board doesn't elect the sheriff. The sheriff is elected by the people. What the board can do is indicate whether or not we have confidence in the fellow that's sitting in the office right now, and then leave it to the people or to the sheriff to decide whether, leave it to the sheriff to decide if a no confidence vote happens, whether he can live with that and keep going, knowing that he's going to have a fight on his hands every time, although I think he probably sees that that's probably the case now, or, and resign, or leave it to the people to either elect him again or recall him. I too supported Frank Rivero in the November election, I believe it was, and I also know that he started with the majority of the people, and Frank, you started with the majority of the board supporting you, along with key department heads and the county administrative office. So right now, in my heart, I have to decide, this is a vote of whether we have confidence in him or not. It's not really going to change anything. He's still going to be in office when and if we're done with this vote. If we vote no confidence, he's still going to be in office, and then it's up to him and the voters. So really, our vote doesn't mean a lot. It's really just an indicator to the people of whether or not he has the confidence of this Board of Supervisors. If we vote no confidence, it means we don't have confidence. That's what it means. That's all it means at this moment in time. So again, and I've been in jobs where I've supervised hundreds of people, and I know that it's a very difficult job to do, to get a group of people that are of differing points of view to pull together and work together as a team. It requires a set of skills that is collaborative and reaching out to work with others that don't agree with you. And I think most of the time on this board of supervisors, I think I've been willing to sit on the end of 4-1 votes over and over and over again, but I have never felt disrespected by the board. I always, there are times where we kind of walk that edge a little bit, but for the most part, when I don't agree with this board of supervisors, I vote because I don't agree with this board of supervisors. And so I'm not afraid to do that. The real question at heart right now is, do I have confidence in this sheriff's ability to move forward and to give people the change that they want? I too, I brought the issue of the helicopter back with the former sheriff. I brought that to the board. We needed to talk about it from a fiscal perspective. We needed to make the public aware that it was happening, and then the public had a choice to make, and the public made a choice. And I think the skills that this sheriff exhibited in that campaign were trying to beat down the door of an existing infrastructure, and those skills were confrontive and courageous and willing to stand and willing to, say what he needed to say and take continual criticism. Those skills, he also had, and I think the elephant in the room, if that term is to be brought up, is the fact that that was a contentious, rancorous, poisonous campaign. A campaign that is almost impossible to heal from. A campaign that created the circumstances that we're here facing today because the healing hasn't happened. And I don't think it's up to this board to tell the voters how to vote, but I do think we do have a responsibility to say how we feel about the circumstance. And here's how I feel. Frank, you started with the support of the people, including me. You started with the majority of the board, including me. You had Kelly Cox, who could make it work with other department heads. But the skills that are required, and I do like you, but the skills required are not confrontation and accusation. The skills required to heal are going to be collaboration, figuring out how to find middle ground, figuring out ways to move forward. It's easy to say we're framing this as the board being corrupt. I think we can find any number of circumstances where a board member supposedly knew something that it should have acted on. And I for one can say there's plenty of things in my term of office that I should have acted on that I had no clue what I was looking at the time that I was looking at it. But I don't think there's anybody out there that can say that I haven't tried. And so I love Lake County. Those who know me know that I'm not running for office again, so I'm going to vote my heart on this one. And I believe that the issue at hand is that we need leadership. And do I have confidence in Frank as a leader that can pull us together and in law enforcement? And the truth is that if I'm really honest with myself, I don't. But what I do believe is I do believe that people need a say. And if this board votes, if someone moves and we vote no confidence, I think that the people are going to need a say in this if Frank chooses not to resign. The people did bring him into office. I'm pretty sure he won't get elected again based on the calls that I get, and I'm pretty in touch with my community, and there's a lot of people that are disappointed in all of the circumstances surrounding this. We have a lot of work to do. Honest to God, we have so much work to do in this county and so little money to do it. And I don't think we're going to get it done unless we pull together. I'm not sure the path forward and how to get there from here, but I hope everyone in this room can figure it out together. I really do. And maybe this is the beginning of that.
Supervisor Comstock.
I appreciate all the people who are here and their passion, and their comments. My first question is, it's been repeatedly said that this needs to be decided in a court of law. Madam Counsel, I have a question for you. The proposal of a vote of no confidence from a court such as, could you describe how that comes about and what gives us the authority or the ability to do that?
A vote of no confidence is nothing more than what Supervisor Rushing described it, which is the opinion of your board as to your level of confidence as to any elected official. So it doesn't necessitate a court process. I thought that the speakers were talking about the Brady issues being decided.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not trying. We're not trying.
We're not trying anything here. This is brought here. Any member of the Board of Supervisors can bring anything forth. This was brought forth, and then we have to make a decision whether we do or we do not have confidence in the sheriff. And as been reiterated, that is within our responsibility and our what we're allowed to do. And I must say, I've received many communications from citizens before the election, since the election, and I can say that there was a gentleman that was a very huge supporter of Frank Rivera was a former law enforcement officer from, not from here, from the Bay Area, moved up here, was very involved with the campaign, was very supportive of Frank being elected sheriff, and when he was elected sheriff, this gentleman was going to be on the transition team for him. And he, 3 weeks before Frank took office, he resigned from that and pulled his support away. And I've known him for quite some time. He was a very respected individual. And he contacted me about July of 2011, when Frank had been in office for 6 months. And he wanted to meet with me, and I met with him. And he described the situation and what had happened. I did not know that he had been on a transition team and that he had resigned. And his words to me were, I want to start a recall petition. And I said, I believe that is totally counterproductive. At this point, I don't believe that that's in the best interest of the citizens of Lake County at this time. The sheriff has been in office for 6 months. Let's see how it all works out, and the citizens are going to have the opportunity to bring forth a candidate for a change if they want. If they don't like what the sheriff was doing, they're going to vote him out in at that time 3.5 years. Well, things, in my opinion, have deteriorated considerably from there. I was very supportive of the sheriff. I did not support the sheriff. Once he was elected, he's the sheriff. He represents us. And we tried very hard to work with him. I tried very hard to work with him. Kelly Cox, as was mentioned, bent over backwards to try to work with the sheriff. And it didn't work. We are here because of the dissatisfaction of decisions that have been made, citizens speaking out. Of all of the communications I received in the last 2 weeks, all were totally in favor of a vote of no confidence and people moving on with doing what they wanted to do, with the exception of one. I received an email from one person that said that this shouldn't be decided by us. Because of the situation that we're in, the combative situation, Lake County has gained a very, very poor reputation during Sheriff Rivera's tenure. There was a lot of publicity with Sheriff Mitchell, with the Dinius case, and all of the things that were said there. Some statements were made here today that the Sheriff's Department has been corrupt for decades. There's a former sheriff sitting here who I know very well, who I have the utmost respect for, that he took offense to that. He was a tremendous leader in our county. And I respect him, and I thank him for his service. And I feel very unfortunate that he would be denigrated in such a way. As I said, thank you for your service. Thank you for the integrity of the department. I happen to have had a brother-in-law who was very outspoken, worked for the department for 26 years, retired as a captain. And he no longer lives here, and he asks me questions about what's happening, because what he reads in the paper. And his comments are, I'm very sorry to see what has happened to the county, that he loved law enforcement. I love and respect our men in uniform, what they do. I know many of them very well. Congratulations on what you have done, what you're continuing to do, and what you will do. I support you. Are you perfect? No, of course you're not. Nobody's perfect. But I support you and your integrity to be able to do your jobs. Being placed on the Brady list is an enormously serious charge. To not be able to respect or to have a law enforcement officer placed on that means that they can no longer perform their duties. And we have, there's a young man over here, I'd say young because he's younger than I am. I've known him since he was born. He's the tribal police. I've known him since he was born. He is a well-respected law enforcement officer. I respect what he does. I respect all of our men in uniform. Those that chose to step down, Ryan and Robbie, you took the strength of your conviction. They know how much you love this county. They know how much you love what you did. And that was a very, very, very difficult decision on your part. I respect you for standing up for that. For the reasons that my respect for our law enforcement community and the situation that has deteriorated to this point, I have to support this vote of no confidence. It is not taken lightly. It is no decision that I wanted to arrive at. but it's here, and I will stand up for what I firmly believe and for the constituents that have shared their opinions and their concerns with me, and my respect for our law enforcement here. Because of that, I wholeheartedly support, sadly, this vote of no confidence.
Well, I just want to state that, I try to stay, and I've always tried to stay really neutral, right from the very beginning. And I always want to give somebody a chance to do the job they were elected to do or whatever. And, it's amazing to me that this board has stayed, we've had our differences, and we will continue to have our differences. But we would leave those behind every time we make that decision. We make the decisions, whether we're at each other's throats or whatever. When we left the room that day, we came in the next time with completely open minds and to listen to each other and respect each other's opinions, and we moved on. And it's been that way since I've been on the board. And, I know that there's folks that either supported or didn't support the sheriff. And it was one of those things that was a wait and see, and let's see how things come out, and let's all try to work together. That's the way this board's always been. Let's try to work together. I have never seen the division in this county that we have today on any other elected official or department heads or anything else. To me, it's not the way we need to run business here. And, I'm not gonna go on and on. I'm just gonna say that I really regretfully have to say that I have to support the vote of no confidence. And what really pushed me over the edge was with this negotiation with the Oaks substation, something that people brought us a ton of signatures to put it there. We decided that we wanted to put it there, but because of little differences all the way through, and I'm sorry to say it all had to do with money. We've got to try to save as much money as we can, and the biggest deal to me was to get the doors open. I don't care if we open it tomorrow in the Visitor Information Center to get an officer in town like the people wanted. And then we look around and try to move it. It just, the feet were stuck in the mud. There was no really negotiations about it. It was my way or no way. And that's not the way it needs to be. We need to compromise. We have to compromise in life every day with our personal relationships and everything else. As much as you hate to admit that you've got to compromise, if you want to get things done, you have to be able to work together and come to a solution that's good for the public. That's what we represent. Supervisor Brown.
Well, I just briefly, I appreciate the board's indulgence, and I appreciate the fact that everybody got to say what they had to say, including Frank. And I think it was representative of where we are. I think, and I'll, again, I feel very strongly about this. I feel that it is the right thing to do for this board to act in order to send this message to the public that we do care about what goes on in this county. We do care about law enforcement. And I know that there's the perception out there by some that this is just an attack. I don't have the power to hypnotize 4 other people and get them to feel the way that they felt up here. And I know that there are some of Frank's supporters, in fact, Frank himself, says this is Rob Brown. Rob Brown's doing this, Rob Brown's doing that. Well, I don't have that ability or that power. What I can tell you is that I feel so strongly about this county that has been home to 5 generations of my family. So much that if you think that this is a personal vendetta,
Yes.
I've got news for you. I say this in front of all you as witnesses right now, and on camera for those at home, that I will step down as County Supervisor of District 5 immediately upon receiving the resignation of Frank Rivero, so long as it is done by 5 o'clock today, with no further litigation or cost to the taxpayers of this county. That's how strongly I feel about this. With that, I will make a motion asking that the board take a vote of no confidence and issue a letter that I've provided with the board. asking that he immediately resign from his position as sheriff of Lake County.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, everybody, for your feedback and everything else.